Guys, Dave and Len here. Welcome to the second episode of Wargame Chat. In this one, we're going to talk about some of the games we like. I'll start. First one that comes to mind. These aren't necessarily my favorite games. They're just some of the ones I like. First one that comes to mind is Battle of Zama from Decision Games. I think it might have been originally printed in Strategy and Tactics. It's just got the flavor of the battle, and it's super easy to learn. It plays quick, and it's fun as hell. The problem is the Romans always win, but if you're playing against someone, you could play the Romans one turn and the next, or one game, and then the next game they can play the Romans so they can win. But it's just got the flavor of the battle, and it actually feels like you're fighting the Battle of Zama, which is something I look for in a battle game. All right, so Len, what was one of your favorites? Let's start with that.
Frederick the Great game. It was an SBI's a magazine game. They also did a box version later on from Avalon Hill. When I first got it, I thought it was one of the most complex games I played, but it was more of a matter of, it was a game in which everything was different. Instead of having your units lined up from corner to corner, you had these columns that marched out, and you had to watch your supply lines, and there's so many options for strategy for both sides that it can get confusing at times. So, but nowadays I play it's like one of the simplest things on the planet.
They ever reprint that one, or they just have the Strategy and Tactics edition, and that was it?
Avalon Hill bought it, and he put out a box version. I think there was a Frederick the Great game by 3W, I think somebody did, and I know Decision Games did a 7 Years' War game, too, a little different. They had zombie armies. I'm using that one, but I won't get into that. But they did correct that.
Cool. My second one, like I said, these are not necessarily my favorite games, they're just ones I like. One that comes to mind is Quezon 68. That's from Decision Games too. As you all know, I like micro games and mini games. It's a solitaire a game about that battle. It's got a point-to-point map. It plays fast. It's a lot of fun, and the NVA anti-aircraft is effective, which is good because they did actually lose quite a few games, or not games, a few planes in that battle. So yeah, it's just fun to play, and for a solitaire game, it's great. I mean, you can play it in like 20-25 minutes, have a game. So you've tried that one, haven't you? Or?
Yes, I did. That was good.
Yeah.
Okay. My next choice is Wooden Ships and Iron Men. It has loads of one-to-one scenarios, those frigate actions, plus you can have a number of the Great Fleet battles, even though I recommend never playing Trafalgar solo. You'll go crazy. You can do the Glorious 1st of June solo, but not Trafalgar.
Yeah, I've got 2 copies of that game. We'll have to try it out.
Yeah. Close Action is kind of the successor of it. Everybody considers it. If you played Wooden Ships Iron Men, you'll only take you a few minutes to learn Close Action.
I was looking online, speaking of Wooden Ships and Iron Men, and don't quote me on this, but I believe for the Commodore 64 computer, they had a video game version of that.
Probably did.
Sounds cool. I had a Commodore 64 when I was a kid, so...
Yeah. Also, I want to note that GMT's game Flying Colors is beginning to warm my heart. Give me a few years, because you just can't replace one of my favorite games that easily. But I'm beginning to like this game a lot more each time I play it. And back to you.
All right, another one, Gtw Agincourt. I did a review of this one too. It's I think GMT's, or not GMT, but GDW calls it the 120 series, where I think they're games that take 2 hours or less to play or something, but it was a really simple game. It's almost like a micro game. The map was pretty rudimentary, but the gameplay was a hell of a lot of fun, and it felt like you're fighting the Battle of Agincourt. I know the purists out there will say, oh, well, this is not the order of battle. Well, that's because no one knows what the order of battle was exactly for that battle. Every article you read on it, there's going to have a different order of battle, because no one knows, and no one ever will know. I mean, they know what some of the forces were, but
they always have an estimate. For medieval battles, there's an estimate of people on both sides.
Yeah.
And usually the other side doesn't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to estimate it.
Yeah. But I mean, it plays like the real battle and stuff, like the mounted knights get their ass kicked and stuff in the game. It's just a lot of fun. I thought it was great for a simple game.
Okay. And my third choice is Royal Navy. This is by Jack Green, designed by Jack Green for Quarter Deck Games. It's scenarios about the Royal Navy in the 20th century. It has scenarios from World War I and World War II. And it has like a lot of small ship actions. And, well, in this one, if you have 6 ships per side, it's a big show.
Mm.
And this week I played Battle of Coronel. And this time I gave the British a chance. I gave them the old battleship, the Canopus. And Vansby was right. If that was there, that would have affected the battle. The British ended up winning because they sank one of the German armor cruisers. And one of them actually, and one British armor cruiser managed to survive.
So ships actually got sunk in the game. I'll tell you why I said that in a second. But how many ships are typically sunk in a game?
Usually like 1 or 2, because that's usually the victory conditions.
Mm.
Now, mind you that you roll to see how many hits you inflict, and you roll to see where it. What damage it does, and sometimes you have to put it to special damage, which results in more things. And but the thing is, when you have about no more than 5 or 6 per side, it's doable. It just takes like an hour longer, but it's more fun.
Yeah, the reason I mentioned that about how many ships got sunk is I was at a convention and some guy came from 3 states away and brought this naval game, and I registered for the game and I sat down. The first thing he says, this is the most complex and detailed naval game ever made. I thought to myself, oh my God, this is not going to resolve in our session here. This is just going to be ridiculous. So we played the game for 3 hours and 1 ship was sunk, and the only reason the ship was sunk is because its magazine got hit. Otherwise nothing would have been sunk. He put on like 3 other games at this convention, and the other 3 games, not a single ship was sunk. So I mean, you're sitting there playing for 3 hours and there's like, you haven't even gotten any victory points. I mean, what is the point of a game like that? That's a terrible game. I mean, that's completely unplayable if the kill ratio is that bad.
Well, I remember even like in Royal Navy, I had a few scenarios where ships weren't sunk, but they were really badly battered. Even in the scenario I played, the Canopus survived. Very little damage, but it was hit by a torpedo and lost all power.
Yeah.
So it was dead in the water.
This game even had a rule where, let's say I fired one of the ship's cannon at your cannon, and it landed near the ship. You would roll to see how much it rocks the ship. And then the next turn, when that ship would fire, it'd have to take into account the angle the ship is moving at because it's rocking. It had all this crazy stuff. I mean, you needed a scientific calculator to play the game and stuff. It was just completely unplayable and ridiculous.
Oh, yes. One thing about the scenario I played, at the end of it, I had a moment of silence for the people who died. it was that bad. I mean, I had ships, well, it wasn't so much when they got hit, they got battered hard, and then the scenario ended with the British and German ship on fire. The British ship managed to put out its fire, but the German ship didn't, and that's why it sank. So, but it was a sad battle.
All right, my next one is Zulu's on the Ramparts from Victory Point Games. This is a Joseph Miranda game. It's a card-driven game. It's just a wonderful solitaire game. It's really got the feel of that battle. That's one of the things I look for in a battle game. Is does it have the feel of the battle? Do I actually feel like I'm playing that battle? That's one of the things I like about it, and it resolves quickly. It takes like half hour to play usually, and you don't always. Some solitaire games you either always win or you usually lose. This one, it's about 50-50. About half the time that I win, half the time I lose. So it's a good one. Unfortunately, it's out of print right now, and the used copies of it the prices are excessive. So hopefully it gets re-released again at a affordable price. If they do, I definitely recommend you pick it up.
Okay, I want to add one more. It's an honorary one. Star Force Alpha Centauri. Now, this is one of those...
SBI, right?
SBI. It's one of those games where you like or don't like because it's unique. Most space combat games are like heavy cruisers off Guadalcanal. You have phasers, proton torpedoes, the whole mess. But this one's got a simple system where people are using like mental powers to push ships around. So the battle consists of people pushing around. Occasionally push them into the sun or something like that. That's the only fatalities. And it also has a good, they had a good backstory for it and different factions. And of course the xenophobe one, it's a lot of fun. Actually, I thought it'd be like really complex, but then it isn't that hard.
I remember I played it with you. I don't think I liked it that much, but I hadn't read the rules. There's some games where I play it and I don't really get into it, but later on I get a copy and I read the rules, and then the next time I play it after that I actually like the game. So it might have just been because I was learning as I was going, and I hadn't actually read the rules.
Mm-hmm. And I think another honorary one is Conquistador.
Who makes that?
It was an SBI magazine game. Avalon Hill bought it and put out a box version.
Gotcha. That's why I thought Avalon Hill had that.
Yeah, and you could explore the new world, sometimes have wars and fun stuff like that. I mean, some of the games I played of that were, you, except for a few attacks, you mostly kept to yourself and just racked up the points. So.
Cool.
And I think one other is Source of the Nile.
Oh, we played that one, the one where you got the grease pencil and stuff. What convention is that? GaryCon. I think I saw that someone had an event scheduled for that game. He was putting on several games of that, which has surprised me because that's a really old game. It's kind of cool that someone's still playing it at conventions.
Playing it. One of the co-designers was refereeing it when I played it at GaryCon.
Oh, okay.
I lost by a point because he wouldn't let me explore anymore. More feuds, more Wargamer feuds.
Mm-hmm. So then, what is the worst war game you've ever played?
Ooh. West End Games had one called RAF. And the reason why I put this on my terrible, terrible list is the fact that it's a solo game, but one of the problems is that you're the RAF player. You don't make, there's very few decisions to make. In fact, you can't, each fighter squadron has the name of the base it's on. So, the Doug Bader's 242 squadron will always be at this base. You can't decide, well, I'm going to have all hurricanes this turn. Let's see how it works. Oops. And not. So, and also they were saying that the British want to have, if you roll the weather for each turn, and there's almost a third of the days there's no flying. So the British get like points because the Germans don't come. And actually the Germans love those days because they get to rest their units. And then they come back with force. And so it's like there's no alternative plans, no trying things with history. I know the Germans supposed to just random, they're the non-playing character. So you're just reduced to someone who just moves units around. You make no decisions.
Mm. I think there's no worst war game I've played, but I'll tell you some of the themes behind some of the war games I've liked the least. I wouldn't say themes, some of the commonalities. The first thing that I can't stand in a war game or any other game is if I'm reading the setup and I'm finding errors in the game on the setup. Like there's one game I played where they're telling you, oh yeah, put your hex or your counter in hex 1004. And then I go look at the map, and the way the hexes are numbered is like A1, A2, A3, B2, B3, B4. It's like, how did the and I spoke to the game designer about this. He actually didn't like me because gave his game a bad review, and he said, what did he say? That I was overstepping my authority as a reviewer and blah, blah, blah. But he said to me, he's like, I had 50 people play test this game. I said, well, how did they not see that problem during the setup? I was like, I don't think anyone play tested this other than you. At least, or maybe they play tested it before the rules were printed and he was just showing them how to play, but that's not play tested. You got to have your final rough draft of your rules, and then people read it, and then they play the game, and then you find where the problems in the rules are, and you correct them. So I don't know, 50 people play testing that. If they really did, those were the worst play testers on earth. But,
well, there's a few magazine games that haven't. They weren't done well. I won't mention their names. I remember one. The guy said, "Oops, we had the first set of rules, but then we corrected that, and the map was corresponded with the second set of rules." Mm-hmm. So that's why you had problems setting up on things.
Yeah.
Because we changed the order battle and also the hex numbering system. So
another thing that drives me crazy with a game is if you're reading the rule book, you're following along, and then it says it's something innocuous like the stacking limit is 3. And then you read 3 more pages, and 3 pages later, it says the stacking limit is 2. So you go 3 pages back, and you're like, it says stacking limit is 3 here, and then on this page it says stacking limit is 2. Obviously, that's something that needs to be corrected with errata, but I don't know, just one of my pet peeves. When the rule is different at each place where it's printed in the game. To avoid that, you should only have the rule written in one place. You should have a little section that says like 3.0 stacking. These are the stacking rules. You don't have the part of the stacking rules on page 3, part on page 6, and part on page 9. That's how you end up having rules that conflict with each other.
Well, one thing, I have advice for any game designer out there, aspiring one. When you write the rules up, determine what the order sequence of play, and then write the rules in that. So if it's like initiative is first, everything dealing with initiative.
Yeah.
If it's movement is next, everything dealing with movement. Then everything dealing with combat. Now I know there's problems with like what's your section on leadership? Should that go movement or combat? And once you do that, you'll probably minimize the errors you'll make. We'll still get confused. Okay, wait a minute. What do I roll to see how if the leader dies? Okay, what section is that in? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Or another thing that is a pet peeve of mine is where there's these optional rules and you read it and it sounds like it's going to be a really cool rule, and then when you play it, the rule's completely broken. It's like it's obviously that they play tested the basic game well, but the advanced rules with the optional rules or whatever you want to call them were completely broken. So
I had a few games in which they had yearly campaigns, and the yearly campaigns were really good. But if you want to try the overall campaign game, all of a sudden there were major problems. I had one Napoleonic game in which the diplomatic rules were bizarre. I mean, it's like, I remember saying, if I ever do this again, I'm rewriting the diplomatic rules. And of course, Napoleonics, that era, usually it's a matter of what does Austria do? Are they neutral, pro-French, or anti-French? And that's the only thing you worry about.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll have another episode next week. Have a good evening.